today's Toy Spot, we are having a look at the Diamond Select, the Punisher Special Collector's Edition action figure. Relatively an older figure, although Diamond Select has been recently re-releasing a lot of their older Select figures to comic book stores. So Spot didn't really necessarily have this for a long period of time. I did find this though at my comic book store within the last several weeks, so picked it up because I had never really looked at the Punisher Marvel Select figure before. Always really wanted to get him, I just simply couldn't find him. So it worked out well that Diamond Select is re-releasing a lot of these, that collectors can now pick them up again. Frank Castle comes with what looks to be a back diorama window display stand. Of course, let's not obviously forget the big guy that's hanging off the side of a pinball machine. Really looking forward to getting this guy out of packaging. Speaking of, side of the package features some iconic Punisher artwork. A lot of people remember that artwork. I think I actually had a t-shirt at one point that had that on there as well. And on the back of the package, not only are you getting a read-up, but you're getting also some of the other characters as well. A Skrull multi-pack, which I think I did pick up at one point, and Arachne. When his family was killed in a crossfire of a mafia shootout, Frank Castle put his military training to use, waging a one-man war on crime. It says, as the E-Punisher, but I guess that was just a typo. As the Punisher, Castle reinvented himself as a merciless scourge of the underworld. The mere mention of his name causes criminals everywhere to cringe in fear, because they all know the Punisher plays for keeps. And someday, he might come gunning for them. A seasoned combat veteran of exceptional skill, the Punisher possesses the normal human strength of a man his age, weight, and build who emerges in an intensive regular exercise. A former U.S. Marine captain with a distinguished combat record who has undergone SEAL, Sea, Air, and Land, UDT, Underwater Destruction Team, and LRPA, Long Range Patrol Training. Frank Castle is well versed in the arts of warfare and hand-to-hand combat. To check out more from the folks over at Diamond Select Toys, make sure you head over to www.diamondselecttoys.com. Spot's going to take a break and get this guy completely opened up out of packaging, but when we come back, we're going to get a better look at the Punisher Marvel Select Special Collector's Edition action figure. Here's more anyway. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. So we really have a lot to cover in this review because, well, he has so many different components. Before we have a look at Frank Castle, I'll just kind of get him to stand on the display stand because he really doesn't stand well on his own. There's a little bit of assembly that's required. The pinball machine does come with a couple of legs that you have to add yourself. And they just attach to the side here. They're a little on the difficult side to hinge forward. In fact, finding the right one. Let's move this guy's legs just slightly out of the way for a second. These will just slide into place. They'll slide in the front. I think there's actually, let's see here. No, I thought they were different, but they appear to be all the same. Those will slide in the front. It's just so much that the backs do come across like it's got a more narrow gap to fit those legs into. But there you have the pinball machine completely assembled. You know what? Let's look at that first. That's a pretty cool accessory. Let's look at that first. So we've got some guy that's been just completely, I'm sure he's been asked a few questions from Frank. He probably didn't give the answers that Frank was looking for, or he did give the answers Frank was looking for. Frank still proceeded to beat him up. He's been smashed against, funny enough, a Spider-Man pinball machine, which is a nice touch. The underside is completely hollow. There's not really anything there underneath, but it's got some little details on the front. You've got the 25-cent slots on the front there where the machine, you can add the coins to and start the machine up. Other than that, there's not really much for the machine, but then you've got the gentleman, this poor chap that's been smashed against the back of it. Let me also point out the fact that despite the fact he's even been smashed against it, he's also got a grenade lodged inside of his mouth. So things probably aren't going to bode well for this individual who apparently has thug for life. Well, congratulations, thug for life. I'm sure you're not going to be a thug for very long. Some nice tattooing there of a spider, Black Widow there, and spider web on the elbow. And then on this side, we've got, looks like barbed wire, or it could be notches. I'm thinking it's more so barbed wire. And then at the top there, we've got, I think it says Copley, and then there's a little heart there. He's got some handcuffs. My guess is he had fled as a criminal. The Punisher had tracked him down, and this is what ended up happening. He doesn't look like he has any sort of posability to speak of. The arms are completely staction. Scratch that, he does have articulation in the feet or in the boots. So that's the poor individual. A nice display piece, to say the least. Probably one of my favorite display pieces from a Marvel Select release. Then you've got Frank, which I'll look at in a second. But before we do that, again, he just does not stand. I'll talk about that in a second. But he also does come with this, which would likely be where the pinball machine was situated inside. And we've got an old tavern. Correct, actually, to be more exact. I don't know if that says it's Matters? Matters Tavern. I can't quite make out some of the font there, but you've got a neon sign glowing. Of course, this way it's backwards because we're on the inside of the building itself. Some bullet holes on the sides. You got like FSW plus AL. A couple notches there, a little star there notched as well. And the floor. The floor could have been a little bit better because it looks like they've put a wash of a silver over top of a brown floorboard, which doesn't really make much sense and ends up coming across weird by coloring. There's no peg hole on it, but at least there's a place where Frank could stand. There's the underside of the display stand itself. Not a bad looking display stand, I have to admit. So we'll put that right there. Alright, so let's have a look at Frank Castle, the Punisher. Noting that this is an earlier released figure, you will go into it with hopefully a slightly different perspective of what this figure is. What this figure is, sadly, is very unposable. He does have posability. You know what? Let's get that out of the way first. He does have posability in the waist, posability in the arms, in the wrists, and a ball joint head. That's it. Doesn't have any elbow articulation, no swivel in the bicep, no bend at the knees, nothing. He is very limited. In fact, he doesn't even have articulation in the boots. Other than just the arms and everything else we had just looked at, that's all he really is. He's slightly, in the sense, a statued piece, but then again, he is an older Marvel Select release as well. He also reads a little on the short side, I have to admit. I don't know if it's just because of the fact that his head seems bigger, his torso seems, I would say, adequately proportioned to the head and the shoulders and the arms, but then his legs read short, like they should be longer than what they are. They are primarily black, although they've added a little bit of a blue wash to the legs themselves just to bring out some of the creases in the pants. It looks good, but the legs do seem like they should be a little bit longer. It almost comes across like he's a really short guy. I don't picture Frank Castle to be all that short, therefore not really justifying why his legs are so short. The jacket, as you've probably seen over the course of this video as well, is a soft rubber, so there's a little bit of give to that. But the rest of the figure itself, excluding the belt and the loops on the sides, which are an independent piece, the rest of him is a very solid plastic. He does come with two weapons as well. I just opted to keep them in his hands. His hands are really going to be posed, as you can probably see, to hold handguns. You could take the pistol out, you could take the rifle out, but ultimately though, because his hands are already sculpted in such a way that they look like they should be holding something, I'm just going to be more inclined to keep them where they are. But I probably will have him displayed like this, as if he's in the middle of a gunfight. I like the simplistic look of the skull also on his t-shirt. It's very nice. I don't have a Punisher t-shirt that has this simplistic skull. I'd love to get my hands on one. Because we've seen a lot of Punisher shirts that tend to be where it's got the little sides of the jaw and the mouth goes to about there and you can see, you know, the outline of the teeth. But the very elongated, very skinny skull, I quite like that. We really haven't even looked at his face or examined his face. Let's do that right now. The face is good, though they've painted his eyes awfully red. he seems more vampire, to be honest. Also, being the fact that his hair is slicked back and his eyes are red, he comes across more like looking like a vampire. Apparently, this is what Bela Lugosi did after he retired being a vampire. He just hunted people. You know, actually, that's actually a pretty cool idea. But he does read a little bit on the vampire end of it. I wish his eyes weren't as red as they were. The camera almost isn't even picking them up as much as they are in hand, but the eyes do come across very red. The detailing on his face is decent for its time. I'm sure a much better Punisher could be released nowadays. So looking at it, again, looking at it as if this is after all an older figure, it's not bad. It isn't too bad. We've already had a look at his articulation, we've already had a look at his accessories, so we can pretty much wrap up this video. I like this Punisher figure. Truthfully, I wish he had a little bit more posability. Truthfully, I'd like to see them re-release a new Punisher figure that has some of that. But in the meantime, he's not a bad looking figure. I just wish he would stand a little bit better. And I wish that he had longer legs, which I think is the biggest strikes for this figure. I can live with the posability lacking, but the short legs, I think, could have been fixed, or should have been fixed in this instance. Today's collectible, or today's toy spot, Spot was having a look at a little bit of an older figure, yes, but a fairly recent pickup, as we're having a look at one of the original Marvel Select Punisher figures. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more toy spots heading your way. As always, thanks for watching, as you always do. I'll see you next time.